Welcome back then folks to the second video of day 2 of Special Projects pack number 11. This is actually a build which I really like. It's a fictional one, and of course I've done a fictional NSX Type R, or an NSX-R for short in the past. One of the pretty early, I think, Special Projects packs if I recall correctly. This one though is the logical next step. And for those who are not familiar, because this, ironically for Gran Turismo, has always been more of a Forza thing, there was a really top-tier NSX version in that game called the NSX-R GT. It's kind of a weird-looking thing. It's got a huge chin splitter sticking out the front, quite a large diffuser sticking out the rear bumper, and most notably, a Gumper Apollo-style air intake sticking up out of the roof. The performance on paper doesn't sound that much different, but it was always a super OP version of the NSX, and of course the older shape NSX from like 2002. This one is my reimagining of what if they made that kind of thing, like a race-inspired super hardcore NSX, but for the road. Something from Honda to take on, for example, like a 911 GT2 RS. So we're looking at like basically race car numbers. The kind of weight that we're working with here, 1,350 kilos, realistically would be borderline impossible to get the NSX down to with the amount of tech that's packed into it, but we're having a bit of fun. So, as you can see, we've got some nice rounded numbers, 600 horses, 1,350 kilos, and even the point level isn't too bad, 674. This is a design that I've done myself, because nobody had really done that before, and pretty good looking one if I don't say so myself. And as far as the upgrades themselves, pretty naturally I've got the stage 1 weight. I'll just double check the ultimate section. I do have the stage 5, so we go all the way up to there. Carbon prop shaft as well, so we can skip that in a second. So we've got sports hards as standard. I've opted to upgrade them to sports softs. So not a ridiculous change, but just, you know, a decent amount of extra grip. As far as the club sports section, of course, stage 2 weight naturally, power restrictor and ballast are used. For the semi-racing stuff, the fully customised computer is fitted, the diff is fitted, I have increased the rigidity on this one, and naturally stage 3 weight also. As far as the racing stuff, I've got the race filter, manifold pads. I've opted not to do the discs. I just double check on the sports section. No, I didn't do the discs. I went for the ceramics. So, jumping down back again to where we were, the race clutch and flywheel, the race suspension, race transmission, naturally the stage 4 weight, the steering angle adapter, and, as I just said, the carbon ceramic brakes. And then, of course, in the ultimate section, the parts which you already saw. Now, this one, if I recall correctly, and I'll have to double check now in the garage, but I've noticed, and I don't know if this is a bug, which has been happening for a while and I just didn't see it or what, but it seems like certain cars, when I fit upgrades and then remove them, the power is higher than it was to begin with, even though in the case of this one, for example, this car doesn't have any of this tuning here. So even removing the parts which you can remove, it shouldn't really be higher than stock. But for some reason, on a couple of cars I've noticed, it is higher, which is why I'm saying that even though, as you can see here, I actually haven't really fitted anything that I've bought, I initially did, but then I removed them, and it still has around 600 horsepower. So I don't recall exactly what's going on there, unless it's just because of the fully customised ECU, but I don't recall. I'm pretty sure it should not work out to 600 horses, but whatever it was that I did, glitch or not, it does have 600. So if you want to replicate that, I guess you'll have to do what I've done. So we've got the sports softs fitted, of course. For the suspension, 103mm, which sounds quite high, but as you can see in the menu, it really isn't. It's a pretty low down car. Of course, incidentally, this does have the wide body fitted as well. But you can see that when you download the design anyway, which of course is linked in the description as it said at the start of the vid. The anti-roller's on 4. For the dampers we've got 30 and 40 respectively, 2.25 on the springs, 1 degree of camber, so not particularly high, a little bit of toe, 0.5, and then 0.20 on the rear, so nothing too radical there. As far as the diff, triple 10 on the front, triple 30 on the back. So more like the kind of thing you'd expect to see me do on like a Lamborghini with 4-wheel drive. As far as the transmission, I've actually left that standard, because although I bought the racing one, and you could use the race one if you want to, I then had a second thought and thought, well, you've already got, what, 8 gears I think it is, or 9 gears, I don't recall, you could count it there on screen anyway, but I can't be bothered to stop. And the standard one has that more authentic feel to it. It's got maybe a slight bit of lag, but it's still a pretty rapid gearbox. So switching between the two, you've got the option at least of if you want it to be more track spec, more race spec, or have a little bit more realism. So I'll leave it down to you. As far as the power, that's standard on the ECU, standard on the restrictor. I've added a little bit of ballast just to make it a bit more realistic. It's not super realistic, but like I said, 1,350 kilos, 122 of ballast, and then we've put that all the way to the front. So it's still very much a rear-biased vehicle, but it's just a little bit closer. And as far as the downforce, I've set that as high as it can go. And then over here, like I said, I've removed the stuff. Aside from, you know, the brakes, obviously, which are still fitted. So I don't know if that is a bug, or if I'm just overlooking something, but it is kind of strange how it seems to affect the power if you fit stuff and then remove it again. But regardless of how that does or doesn't work, we now need, of course, to jump out to the track to show you what it can do in practice. Now, like I said, I love this car. This one and the Ferrari F40 LM build from yesterday are easily the two out of this pack which I'm most proud of. They handle so nicely. Now, the NSX is already a pretty damn good car to work with, and if you used my special projects build for the NSX-R, I know some of you enjoyed that one as well, but it was fairly subtle. You know, it wasn't that crazy of a build. It was, well, kind of like the older NSX-Rs are. It's not like they have crazy wings and intakes and stuff, whereas the GT, that was kind of the point. That is the one that really does go hard on the aero and more overtly looks like a higher tier of NSX, and that's really what I wanted to achieve here. So the wide body, the more distinctive paint, of course the black roof is an homage to the older NSXs as well, loads of air vents and intakes and outlets all over the body, that little red trim on the front to be the Type R little nod in there. But yeah, if you do decide to use it, I think if you already like the NSX, you'll adore this. If you liked my build for the NSX-R, you'll definitely love this even more, because this is so much quicker, and it really does feel like a borderline race car, which is the whole point. And if this were a real machine, I mean, 600 horsepower being less than Porsche would have made no difference, because this thing is a beast. Of course it wouldn't have been that light, there's no way it would have been a 1,350 kilo car if it were real, but that's the fun aspect of it being fictional. So if you do try it, I hope you enjoy it. You could definitely use this thing for racing, especially on sports tyres, and of course check out the other special projects coming up this week, as well as the ones which we've already done. But for now, thanks for watching.